One of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history involves three NBA MVPs who, once upon a time in Oklahoma, were teammates on an Oklahoma City Thunder team that made it to the 2012 NBA Finals. A team that pushed the famous Heatles super team in a way no one expected a team of talented but young players would.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
That trio of James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook would all end up leaving the Thunder without being able to lead them back to the NBA Finals and on to the Promised Land. Harden left to get paid. I mean, to get the chance to be a star on his own team. He certainly succeeded, becoming arguably the best scorer the NBA has ever seen on a Houston Rockets team that have been entertaining to watch, if not quite good enough to go all the way and win a championship. He now finds himself back alongside his former running mate Kevin Durant as a member of the Brooklyn Nets. Durant won his first and only league MVP during the years after Harden left. However, after the Thunder took the Warriors to Game 7 in the 2016 Western Conference Finals and lost, Durant decided he needed a change of scenery if he was going to win the championship that had so far eluded him. KD would leave the following year, joining the side who should never have beaten them and attracting much criticism from the NBA world for doing so.
How are you viewing this move from Durant?
Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar. Plain and simple. That's just how I look at it.
While simultaneously ruining any relationship he had with Russell Westbrook in the process. With 2 championships in 3 years with the Golden State Warriors, he headed to Brooklyn to join Kyrie Irving and the Nets after the chance to three-peat in San Francisco was ended largely by his injury struggles in the 2018-2019 playoffs.
Ibaka trying to stay with Durant, knocks it away, and Durant's limping. Durant goes down holding his leg. Ibaka goes up.
Last to go was Russ. After his Why Not Me triple-double year in which he single-handedly dragged the Oklahoma City Thunder into the playoffs and took home the season MVP award for his efforts, Westbrook was moved on by the Thunder following a failed attempt to partner him with Paul George. The franchise became resigned to the fact that Westbrook could take them no further when Paul George left for the LA Clippers and so decided to blow it up and start over. Westbrook was sent to Houston in return for Chris Paul. He teamed up with his former OKC running mate James Harden in Houston, then quickly demanded a trade at the end of last year after only 1 season with the franchise when it became clear Harden didn't want to stay in Houston. See our recent video on the Harden trade for more on how that unfolded. He's now in Washington playing for the Wizards, a team seemingly a long way off the playoffs and falling well short of the level they were expected to be at with a backcourt of Westbrook and fellow All-Star guard Bradley Beal.
I just hate losing, I hate losing.
It now looks like it might make sense for Washington to try again with someone better suited to playing alongside franchise cornerstone Bradley Beal, and we think we've got just the trade to make it happen. A 3-team deal between the Washington Wizards, Los Angeles Lakers, and Brooklyn Nets. We just did a video on why we think Irving is leaving the Nets and where we think he'll end up. Spoiler alert, it's the Lakers. So be sure to check that out before continuing this video so you understand why what we're saying makes sense. We like Kyrie to the Lakers. The 2 teams can make the deal work without a third team getting involved. However, we like this version of the trade even more for a number of reasons. The biggest pull in our view is an opportunity for those 3 young starts who went their separate ways to join forces again and show the league and the world just how good they could have been if they had stayed together. There are many in the NBA world who think that if Sam Presti had managed to keep that trio together, the Oklahoma City Thunder would have won at least 1 championship in the years since they were split up. The opportunity to reunite the 3 in Brooklyn is surely a tantalizing prospect for them, the Nets, and the rest of the basketball world, and we think we found a way to make it work. The trade scenario we like the most involves the following pieces moving from each team. First, the Lakers would have to send Dennis Schroeder, Wesley Matthews, Montrezl Harrell, and Kyle Kuzma to the Washington Wizards. The Wizards would then send Westbrook and Robin Lopez to the Nets. Finally, the Nets would send Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan to the Lakers. The trade might also negate the need for picks to move hands as 2 teams are getting elite-level players and the Wizards are getting vets on friendly contracts to add to a young roster as well as 2 talented and young players in Dennis Schroeder and Kyle Kuzma. There it is, the 3-team trade that could see the formation of 2 super teams and finally hand the keys to the Wizards franchise to Bradley Beal. Now, we know that it's out there, but let's look at why it works for each of the teams involved. For the Brooklyn Nets, it's a chance to move on from a difficult-to-manage manage Kyrie Irving. We cover this aspect in the video we mentioned earlier, but essentially he seems to be more work than he's worth and needs to go back on a team where he defers to others' authority, aka LeBron James and the Lakers. It's also a chance to reunite the OKC trio of all those years ago and give them a chance to make right the fact that they never won a title together. They've all said they believe they would have. Now would be their chance to prove it. Another big positive for them is that they wouldn't have to give up too much of the young talent they've managed to hang on to in the aftermath of the James Harden trade. Shipping out DeAndre Jordan for Robin Lopez is an alright swap, as both are solid defenders who don't contribute too much on the offensive end. Besides, Harden, Durant, and Westbrook are going to win games by blowing teams out of the water. We don't think defense is going to matter all that much with three such explosive players on one team. Both Russell Westbrook and James Harden have reputations for being hard to play with. In fact, there were indications that part of the reason Westbrook asked to leave Houston was because he and James Harden didn't fit together as well as planned. However, we think the fact that the three of them played together in Oklahoma all those years ago and did so pretty effectively negates most of these kinds of issues. The fact that each of the three have willingly moved to play alongside one or the other since the team was split up also suggests they don't mind playing with each other, which is a positive for Brooklyn. It's also clear that James Harden and Russell Westbrook want to add a championship ring to their otherwise comprehensive list of achievements in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
The constant roster rotation in Houston was to try and pair Harden with the right start to take the franchise all the way. We can only assume the Westbrook trade was done in the hopes of making that dream a reality. After all, Chris Paul had many other suitors around the league before the trigger was pulled on the Westbrook trade. A big part of the reason Harden left was because he didn't feel the Rockets were good enough.
We're just not good enough. We don't obviously chemistry, talent-wise, just everything, and it was clear.
Westbrook wanted out for the same reason when he learned Harden didn't want to be there. Surely then, the desire to win a ring should be incentive enough for them to swallow their pride and make it work in Brooklyn if such a trade went through, particularly given that they know they likely won't get a better chance on a stronger team if such a deal was to go through. We think the Brooklyn Nets are likely to be pretty happy with the trade given all those factors, so let's move on to the Lakers. The benefits for the Lakers aren't too dissimilar to those we discussed in the original Kyrie Irving trade video. In this version, they get to hang on to some draft picks, which they will be happy about. They also get a veteran center who plays solid defense in DeAndre Jordan. While they have Marc Gasol, DeAndre Jordan offers a more athletic option that suits the fast break basketball the Lakers used so effectively last season. The key sell of this trade for the Lakers franchise, though, is the chance at a dynasty with Kyrie added to the LeBron-AD combo, alongside a guarantee that they will remain an elite team after LeBron slows down. Kyrie gives them a shot at both, so the trade is a good call for the Lakers, even if it means they do have to gut their roster slightly to do it. For the Wizards, the trade represents an opportunity to quickly move on from the flop of a trade that brought Russell Westbrook to Washington. The Wizards have a good group of young players, and bringing in a few vets to give some much-needed experience to them seems like a surefire way to move the team forward. Pope, Schroeder, and Harrell are also good defenders, an area Washington needs urgent help in if the sample of 15 or so games they've played so far is anything to go by. Most importantly, though, it places the franchise in Beal's hands. Beal is a legit superstar who can go nuclear on most nights. He needs to be the first option on the team and wasn't with Wall still there. He likely still won't be playing alongside a ball-dominant guard in Russell Westbrook. In Schroeder, the Wizards get a younger point guard who has shown flashes of all-star level play in the past. He's a willing passer too, and crucially a far better shooter than Russell Westbrook. This will allow him to play effectively alongside Beal, as he can still be effective off the ball when Beal takes control of the offense. The Lakers vets involved in the trade are also on short, team-friendly contracts, making them attractive trade pieces alongside the wealth of young talent the Wizards have should they decide to try and bring in another established star in the future. The trade actually makes a lot of sense for the Washington franchise. Make no mistake, this is a league-altering trade. It would create two super teams, one in each conference. Each of those teams would almost certainly reach the finals, which would give us a clash with so many juicy storylines it's scarcely believable. From LeBron's legacy and his reunion with Kyrie Irving, to questions around the potential Thunder dynasty that never was, and so much more in between. A finals matchup between those two teams would be must-see TV in a way the league might not have seen before. 6 bona fide all-stars going at it over a potential 7 games is something every basketball fan can only dream of. We think we found the trade that can make those dreams a reality. In fact, we even think the trades make sense for all the teams involved for a lot of reasons. In a season that has already shown it is likely to be full of drama, something of this magnitude is unlikely, but surely not impossible. If it happens, then remember where you heard it first. If it doesn't, well then one of the biggest what-ifs the league has ever seen will remain just that for the time being. Like this video if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.